Access provided by PlayStation.
Hey everybody, Brandon Jones here, Spider-Man fan with another Spider-Man fan, Kyle Bossman, here to talk about, you guessed it, Spider-Man. Coming soon on the PlayStation 4, I got to sit down and play 5 hours of this game, the first 5 hours of the game.
First 5.
And when you hear something like that, I imagine the first thing that you're thinking of is, wait, don't spoil it at the beginning of the game. I don't want to know stuff. I'm not spoiling anything.
Okay.
I actually am going to break this preview down into 4 categories: story, controls, progression, and navigating.
Story sounds like a spoiler already.
That's why I'm going to do it first.
Okay,
We're going to get to some really quick things out of the way just to kind of explain what I checked out in the context of it.
Sure.
And then hopefully you got some fun questions. Hopefully it doesn't take too long. But I am not going to go into it because some exciting things happen in this game very early. This is the kind of thing, and they were very clear at the preview event. They're like, we think you know the kind of stuff that we don't want you to chat about. But this game is off and running when you first jump in. And it was interesting going and playing through that. It took me a couple of hours to finally get to the point where I was like, I'm going to stop doing the story and I'm going to start just kind of going around the city. I could do that at any point, but there was a real sense of immediacy to the events that were taking place, and I thought that was really cool. It definitely felt like Peter was always behind. There were lots of people calling, Peter, I told you got to be here. He's like, I'm sorry, I'm doing something. And I enjoyed that. I remember like one mission from GTA 5 where somebody calls, I think it might have been GTA 4, but somebody calls the protagonist and he's like, I think it was GTA 4, and he's like, I don't know if you can hear this, Roman, but I'm in a helicopter right now. Like, I can't, we can't go bowling right now.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of fun stuff like that. Some Aunt May calls where it's just like, she's like, what is that, Peter? He's like, nothing, ma'am. Like, I'm in the subway right now. It's noisy. So there's just a lot of cross chatter, a lot of great excitement and energy in the beginning of the game. I think the thing that they've talked about this, they mentioned that before we played the game, that is exciting for me, seeing all of this other stuff that's going on with Spider-Man. There's really exciting Spider-Man animated film coming out. Obviously, the film series is rocking. He's Infinity War. This is an older Peter Parker than you might be expecting. And so I love that. I love, it's kind of the vibe I got from the Arkham games where like, he's established. A lot of the villains are established. His New York is established. People know him. You have a Twitter account.
Oh.
If you go into the menu, whenever you finish missions, you can see like tweets pop up. People are like, yeah, Spider-Man. And like, I don't know if there's any interactivity there. It's just something I noticed quickly in the menu. It was like, oh, that's fun. But I just definitely like the attitude that he has. So this is about him, kind of getting to a new level of understanding what it means to be Spider-Man and level of power and of control of this city and the dynamics that exist between the different villains. But I like that, to have to get origin nonsense out of the way.
Yeah.
A lot of the relationships are well established, so it's kind of fun to take them to the next level. And I think not play down to people that are really hardcore fans of this character. Like, you will jump in and feel very comfortable right away. Or I did, going in and playing this character. This is something that people knew that was a headline that came out already, but Mary Jane is playable.
Yeah.
I did play a little bit as Mary Jane. Not going to go into details of what I did, but I thought that was interesting, and I'm curious if other characters eventually are also playable later in the game. But Mary Jane was the only non-Peter Spider-Man character.
What happens when you press the buttons?
Things happen.
I mean, like, she can't I assume she doesn't jump.
She does not jump, no.
Yeah.
It's a very explory level.
Sure.
Yeah, she's navigating an environment, examining things, basically setting up context for things that Peter and Spider-Man would do later on.
So I do have one question about the story, Jones, and this will probably be a yes or no. You probably can't elaborate too much. So I guess, playing through Telltale's Batman, right? I really like it. I think pretty quickly you realize this is a different kind of Batman story.
Yes.
Do you get that impression pretty early on? This is a different kind of Spider-Man story.
Yes. There are things that they are dealing with that I'm familiar with, that I've read comics and heard stories where it's like, okay, we've tread this ground before. Mm-hmm. I think the vibe that I get from the Telltale series is like, we want to subvert your expectations.
Right, yeah.
We want to do things. We want to attack the Wayne family. We want to possibly have a couple characters drop out, or the Penguin take was very, very interesting. I think the vibe that I get from this is that Insomniac not only loves this character very much, but realizes that they are poised to do an absolutely incredible job with this property based on the experience that they've had, with the gadgets that they've made, with the exploration that they did in Sunset Overdrive, which just like, there's just so many elements about that studio that when I found out they were working on this, it's like, that is a dream come true.
Yeah.
And I get the vibe that it's not like, let's mess it up. We'll make you like sad that these things are happening, but like, let's never say no. Let's say yes to everything. If we get an opportunity to even have something in there, even if we don't highlight it a lot, let's do it. And that's definitely the vibe that I got. Again, I did not get to the point in this play session to get to the prison break scene that we saw at E3, but like from what I played, seeing that, seeing the characters that we know that are in it, characters that have been teased that are in it as well, and even potentially more stuff that I got to see that I'm not going to get into.
Yeah, man.
There's a lot going on in this. Was a very busy narrative, a very busy New York.
Prison Break's pretty deep in, from what I understand. It was like a halfway point.
Which is a crazy thing to think about.
Yeah.
That, all of those characters are introduced. Like, is that the first time we see those characters in the game? I don't know. Is that going to play out exactly that way in the game? I wonder.
Yeah.
I wonder if they kind of teased that, sensationalized it a little bit.
Right. As
Because
the
that was the
demo.
first time we were going to see them.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, is that the first time we see Scorpion? Is that the first time we see Vulture? I don't know.
Sure.
So yeah, that is all I will say about the story.
Cool.
It is time to move on to controls.
Great.
Which you are not necessarily. Some of you might have played the game, might have been at Comic-Con and played the demo there, might have been at E3 and played the demo there. So this might be retreading old news. I just really got to get cozy. I played the demo like 6 times at E3, and every time I tried to try something different, and I didn't necessarily get as comfortable with the combat as I did this time.
You had 5 hours. Just sit down and go. Yeah.
There are kind of challenge mappy things. If you had played the demo at E3, you went to a construction site that was owned by Fisk. And one of the first things that we saw, Fisk is in prison. And so his, from E3, so when he's talking to him on the cell phone upside down. Mm-hmm. And so his men are still out there, and they're still taking these different construction sites. Then when Spider-Man shows up, he's like, "Yeah, I don't think this is a construction site. Like, I'm not seeing a lot of work being done here. These tools have a lot of dust on them."
Yeah.
And so it's neat that they all are in specific locations. They all have a little bit of narrative behind them. When you're talking to Yuri, she kind of fills in like, "I've done some research on that spot. Yeah, no one's been there. No one's been hired to work at that place in months. So yeah, that's definitely a Fisk place." And it kind of has like an Arkham challenge map vibe to it, where you can go and all you do is basically just go there and kick butt and just wrap up these guys and turn them in. And then when you're finished, you have the option to replay that if you want to get a higher score and just practice. And those got kind of tricky. There was one.
Tell me what the score means.
Near the end of my play session, just points based on how many times you got hit, how many combos.
Is that like
your combo meter?
Is that experience points or just completely unrelated points?
You do get experience from doing all sorts of stuff. I'll get to that in a second. Where
Okay.
like you do level up and you do gain skill points and get bonuses that way. But points meaning, do I want to break my record? Just like they have unlocks in the Arkham series, based on your point total at the end of this. Can you get through any one of these without getting hit once? Is kind of like one of the big challenges.
And that is separate from progression.
The first time you do it, you're done, and then if you want to go back. And I don't
like that.
know.
Okay.
And so those were just on the map. Those are physically on the map. A lot of the stuff in the Arkham games, when you did those challenge maps, you just warped right to it. Where like this is something you can go by and see.
Yeah.
And after you clean it, there's no more guys there.
Sure. That was a concern for me, Jones. That I need to keep doing this thing over and over and over to have the best Spider-Man. That kind of thing.
Yeah,
where
I think there were like 5 of them.
Okay.
In all of New York.
Sure.
New York's broken up into districts. We'll get to that in a second. But specifically the controls, I just want to lay down like what you're doing in this game, because I think a lot of people that have not gotten the chance to play this game are wondering, how does this game control?
Is there a jump button?
There is definitely a jump button. One thing that I was concerned about that the previous Spider-Man games have that the PlayStation 2 game definitely had was a charge jump, and the demo at E3 did not have that. And that is we hadn't unlocked it yet, so that's something eventually I unlocked, and I believe that is the right trigger runs. So if you hold down R2, he'll sprint while he's running on the ground. If you run right to a building and have R2, the trigger down, he'll go up the building. If you're just walking on a building and you hit R2, he'll go straight into the run. Mm-hmm. The run is very contextual, feels great. Like it's a general, like I just want to move fast. Like he'll vault over stuff naturally if you're holding it down. And I think if you hold R2 but don't move and hold the jump button down, he'll go into a charge and then take off. What's fun though is R2 is also web slinging, so I think if you're just running and you just hit the jump button, he'll automatically web sling. So I remember in the PS2 game, it was kind of a trick to like, okay, I gotta like do a jump and then web sling and then make sure I'm high enough so then I can. You really had to pay attention to where I was grabbing, and I don't know if I would get cozy with this in the long run, but the web slinging is definitely forgiving. There were times where I web slung something behind me and like still had momentum, and I was like, oh, okay, like they definitely don't want to slow you down. Like, and I think. It's tricky for me to get used to being such a fan of the PS2 version because I was definitely like slamming into walls all the time because that was kind of part of like get good, like get good at this web slinging, understand where the buildings are, know what kind of part of New York you're in, so you're like don't go into Central Park, you're gonna have a hard time. Whereas in this, like I had no problem just on trees, zipping around.
Cool.
Triangle is your main web slinging button when you're in combat.
Okay.
If you if you target an enemy and you hit triangle, you will zip to them. If you hold it, you will pull them at you.
Targets like right click on right analog stick?
No, you just turn towards them.
Oh,
Just
okay.
anybody.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you're just automatic because you're moving super fast, like Arkham. You're just like, okay, I'm in the vicinity of this guy. I want to attack him.
Sure.
And the pull is not extreme. The pull will only move them about 4 or 5 feet. So there were a lot of times where like I would pull them closer and then I'd have to like do a flip and then I would go in and fight them.
Cool.
The just tapping triangle will zip you all the way to them. So that was what I did most of the time. But I just love that the back and forth between tapping it or holding it down.
Does that say the same? Because I think I saw you have different powers, web powers or abilities, I guess.
Yes.
So does that swap into the triangle button, or is triangle always going to be?
So triangle's always just, it's that.
Cool.
Again, who knows, way down at the bottom of the skill trees, but in my play session, that's all the triangle did. Holding circle in the air launches enemies. Then you can, if you immediately hit the punch button, he'll jump up automatically, or you can jump up yourself.
Circle is punch?
The square is punch.
Oh, okay.
So if I circle and then start punching right away, it'll assume, okay, you want to punch that target that you just launched up in the air, but I can also manually jump up. And if I want, I can let them drop to the ground and go and web another target, or I can get that person in an air combo. But it's a good way to just be like, there's too many people around me, I'm going to get that guy out of the way. And square then circle jumps off an enemy. And I thought that was really fun. And I don't recall Spider-Man games. I did not play Ultimate Spider-Man. I didn't play Web of Shadows. There's a lot of Spider-Man games.
There's like 5 or 6,
so
man.
There's probably more than that. But I thought that was really fun. So if you have a bunch of targets running at you and you want to just get out of the way but still do a little bit of damage, you can hit square and then X that punches a guy and then like puts your feet on his chest and vaults off of him. So it's just kind of fun to like...
X is jump.
Yeah, there's like, there's 6 guys coming at me, but there's that guy in the back with a machine gun. I want to deal with that guy, but I can't web him because I got all these targets in front of me. So I'm just going to punch the guy in the face in front of me, jump off of his shoulders, and then triangle the guy in the distance, zip at him, and then beat him up.
Yeah, that's cool, dude.
So it's one thing. A lot of people were talking about... this is just another Arkham game, and the jumping is a major thing.
Sure.
There are multiple levels to a lot of these fights. There's guys that will pop out of places in the building and will perch themselves up at high. It's so gratifying to hear the rocket launcher and be like, no, and just jump out of the way at the last second while this rocket goes flying past you. So a lot of that felt really good, and I just love the ability to like vault off of a person specifically. R1 web stuns targets. So if you tap R1 a bunch, he'll keep shooting. That was the item that I first started with. I think I had 6 of those charges, and then that would just slowly recharge over time. I think about like 7 or 8 seconds, I'd get them all back. And then I unlocked the web bomb, or I can't remember what it was specifically called, but that was just you're out. That's just like not... I hit you with 1 R1, and that's going to slow you down. I hit you with 6 of them, now you're stuck. Just 1, you're stuck. And a lot of times, one of my favorite things that I just did by accident was the circle button R1. So you circle button to launch him up in the air, R1 to throw him to the ceiling.
And then you just walk away,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, and then when you're done with the fight, you look up and he's still like stuck up there.
Yeah.
And then again, that was a wheel that you could select. I think L1 brought it up, and then you could analog stick to select the various web things. The 6 I started with was the top of the dial. The web bomb was 9 o'clock, and then looked like a lot of other things that you can unlock, a lot of other devices and stuff.
Ratchet and Clank, Resistance, got that weapon wheel, cool.
And so it's not only fun to experiment with those, but once you know where they are, it's really easy to just switch like on the fly. L2 specifically will target. So if you hold, I thought it was L2 and R2 that did this. L2 will slow the game down and bring up a little reticle, and R2 will zip to that spot. So they'll come up again in navigation.
Oh,
but
if I'm holding down L2 already.
Yeah, that's where like Arkham kind of comes into play, where if it's just like, specifically with stealth. I used that a lot when I was going into a place, and it's like, okay, I just want to go over to that beam. You can go straight over there.
So that's
if you don't want to like swing over because it's like I don't know the accuracy of like letting go of the swing and then trying to land somewhere. If I literally just want to be like the top of that statue right there, L2 to like slow the game down and bring up that menu. But if you're just web slinging, if you hit L2 and R2 at the same time, it's a quick way to just I don't care where I go, just somewhere in front of me I want to perch and then jump off of.
Sure.
R2, as we said, runs and vaults over obstacles and up buildings. L3, while you are swinging around, makes you dive to the ground, which I thought was interesting. You can also move the left analog stick forward, and he'll just naturally do that. But if you click L3, he will bomb straight down super fast. So if you want to like get speed or kind of Batman style, if you're like, yeah, this is the spot, I just want to drop in on them. I'm curious if there'll be kind of that electro pulse ability like they have in Arkham.
Yeah.
Where like when I hit the ground, it actually will shock people depending on how far I drop. No fall damage, obviously.
That's also the most fun when you're just high up, when you're swinging for fun, dude.
Yeah, so
just
if you find a really high building
down,
and then jump off immediately.
Swing from that last second. Yeah.
R3 scans the area for activities. And this was interesting because there's a lot of chatter. The chatter in the PlayStation 2 game got really annoying because the crimes got very repetitive. The chatter in this game is great because it's just real boring police chatter.
Oh.
And so you can kind of drone it out if you don't want to focus on it. You know, it's not like, oh, stop it with that side mission that you keep yelling at me about. Like, even if there's just a car chase and that's a similar activity that you do over and over and over again, the dialogue involved in the car chase might be different. It might be actually like a different person. It might be a man reporting it in. It might be a woman reporting it in. You know, so like there is variety even in the same type of crimes that you would see.
And I hear that by holding down R3?
No, you hear that just running around. You hear a lot of stuff
right.
just running around. Mary Jane will call you. Aunt May will call you. Yuri will call you. J. Jonah Jameson has a podcast. I don't want to get into it. It's hilarious. There's like a lot of times he has a radio show, so he'll take callers. And people are like, are you sure, man? Like, I'm telling you, Spider-Man just saved me. And he's like, you don't understand. Like, one guy called it. He's like, you're really angry. He's like, I just love this city so much. Like, it's like, and I'm just doing my activity, you know, just doing little like stuff, touring around the city. And it's just really fun to
And it's not like GTA where you're tuning into a station. It's actually just
pops up. Just pops up. Little icon of his face pops up in the lower third. And like, all right, here's another episode. And if you miss it and you're like, I was fighting somebody and I didn't hear that, every time a new one pops up, it'll pop in the menu. So you can go back and listen to all of the episodes. But even if you hear a police scanner thing, if you click on R3, then it'll be like, it's over there. And you're like, oh, okay. You know, if you just hear it, you're not like, get the targets out of my way. I'm doing something else. I don't care. But it's just nice to have that kind of vibe. And there were a ton of things I skipped. You know, there was navigating, just trying to get to the next story thing. That Yuri's like, hey, if you want, I'm like, don't have time, Yuri. I gotta do this. And so it was neat getting that vibe of you constantly having to let stuff go as Spider-Man. Constantly like, oh, God, I would love to. That sucks that lady just got robbed, but I gotta go do this mission. Yeah. So it's neat that you manually choose, okay, I want to do that. Where is that? And then, okay, poof, it'll pop up. Triangle and circle, and then moving the right analog stick in various directions performs air tricks. So while you are in the air, after you are webbing, you let go of the web, then you hold down triangle and circle, and then just move the analog stick, and he will duck and roll in whatever direction. So if you move it to the left, he'll just spin like a top. Mm-hmm. If you move it forward, he'll do a forward spin, you know, kind of like SSX, or do a back spin. And you get experience for that.
Cool.
So if you want to just zip around the city, and I mean, you don't get a ton,
and
but it's just kind of a fun thing to do that I did not know. I don't know if that was in the demo, but I did not do that, and I like that you get a little bit of credit for it. And the D-pad down heals you with focus, which is an ability that you a currency that you use to spend a lot of your abilities on while you're in combat. It's just like having MP or something that you use. And one of the things you can do with that is down to heal yourself a little bit. Definitely doing a lot of those challenges later on. I was like healing myself, like trying to find the perfect time to heal myself because those were a little tricky.
Is it like a one and done, or is there like a meter that you're healing from?
I don't remember where the focus meter was in the HUD, but yeah, that is the more focus you have built up, the more you'll get healed.
But yeah, so it's just like a and I'm healed.
You just glows green, yeah, and it's not a lot.
Okay.
So it's just kind of like, okay, I'm gonna get myself away from being like right next to death,
sure.
But it's not like your whole meter is gonna fill up. It's not a crutch at all. And D-pad up equips your camera. And so as I would imagine you could expect, you have a camera and there's challenges where you go around the city and take pictures of things.
Did you do any of those?
Sure. It's XP, baby. If you, and it's just real simple to see. I took some really horrible pictures because I was trying to just fly through this demo as fast as I could. So I'm like, I'll probably take a little more time framing that.
Yeah,
but I was just like, what? There's a museum? Got it. Okay, moving on. So yeah, those are the controls.
Left and right on the D-pad?
I would imagine it's just more stuff when you unlock it, but didn't necessarily do anything in my playthrough. So yeah, those are the controls. I just really
What's the touchpad do?
I think is the map. I think start goes to the menu, where you can pick like abilities and stuff like that. And I think
good transition. Yeah, because we got to talk about
map.
this stuff, dude.
So let's talk about progression.
Yeah.
So how you are leveling up. So you get XP from all sorts of stuff, and you level up. Level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. When I hit level 1, they gave me a health bonus. When I hit level 2 or 3, they gave me a damage defense bonus. I didn't get any other bonuses past that.
Oh, all right.
So I think it's just kind of randomly depending on levels. So just like, here's a little extra, little piece of candy there. I think I got to like level 7 or 8. Was definitely getting hooked on that stuff. I think that's something that, and you get a skill point with every. I think you get skill points for other reasons too. I think maybe the story might award you with 1 or 2 on occasion when like a tool or something like that will develop because of story missions. And I was definitely stoked on all of this stuff. There are 3 skill trees: Innovator, Defender, and Web Slinger. Web Slinger is a lot about navigation. Defender is mostly combat, and Innovator is all your tools. So I mostly did Web Slinger just because I wanted to get around the demo super fast and just kind of have fun with it. That's where you unlock tricks. You can't do that right away. That's where I unlocked that charge jump. You unlock the ability to, if you're in a fighting situation and you R2 with web slinging and then hit the circle, you'll web kick.
And that's all web swinger still?
That's all the web slinger tree, yeah.
Cool.
I think I got into Defender a little bit to like up my, so I wouldn't get beat up so much.
It is funny it's Defender, huh?
Yeah.
Because like you're beating guys up, but like, no, it's all defense, you know what I mean? Defending the city, it's for the best.
And worth pointing out, when we were talking about those little combat areas, he had different dialogue for each area. So, like, not only was the context different for each of them, but, like, when each wave would show up, he's like, oh, come on, guys. We ran out of donuts. What are you doing here? Like, silly stuff like that. And those repeated because I had to do some of those challenge areas a couple times, but I noted that they were different depending on each area. So,
cool.
Spider-Man talks a lot of dialogue in this game. There are backpack tokens that you can use to get better gear. You can use to level up your gear. And these are fun lore-wise, contextually.
Yeah.
Because the first one he finds, he's like, oh yeah, I forgot about these. And he's like, I left these around the city in case I needed clothes.
Yeah.
In case I needed something. And it was easy for me because I just threw a backpack somewhere and, so they're just like, they're tucked into really weird places. It's not yours. Like, someone would have stolen this. It's like, no, it's up a building. It was by a window. They wouldn't, someone living in this apartment probably didn't even know this was there. And they're all really funny lore stuff.
Yeah.
So
they're like
you
see like a 2D image of what was in the backpack, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're fun contextually, like just give you a little plant the seed of what these are like. One was a business card for Matt Murdock and company for his law firm. I was like, oh, neat. So like, again, they said like, we're not going to get into lore from other characters, but there are little fun Easter eggs, fun little history things about Peter Parker. And again, another reason why it was fun in this story to have an established Peter Parker so that you see these little things and you're like, oh, that was okay. Like, so we're past that. Got it. That's already happened. That little part of his life. And they beep when you're getting closer to him. And because of the vertical nature of the game, it was fun to just land in an area and be like, I'm on top of this thing. Like, oh, it's over there. Like you really have to kind of climb around buildings to get to stuff. And I feel like you're moving so fast through this game that it was kind of fun to just like look at a building and like, oh, okay, I see it.
So it's tied into this discussion of progression. When I start this game, I'm going to want to do backpacks constantly. That is the thing I want to do before I even move the story along, before I see one more cutscene. It kind of sounds like you said the game discourages you from doing that. Do you feel like that is not a way I could play it?
No, it was just in the beginning. It was just that all of the story missions, there was always a thread to the next one. When I finished the story mission, there was always this sense of like, I should go, because I did that, I didn't do that thing with Aunt May, I should go over and help Aunt May.
Yeah.
So it feels kind of weird to be like, I'm going to go looking for backpacks. Well, you could if you want, who cares?
Okay.
So it was just that it very rarely ended and then was like, all right, I got the rest of the day off. Like, Spider-Man does not have time off.
Sure.
Like, he's just constantly, oh crap, that's right, there was that other thing that I had to do. So that was just me personally, like really noticing 2 hours in, like, wait, wait, hold on. Like, I don't know how much story I'm going to get to play in this game.
Yeah.
In this demo specifically. And the thing that was fun about those backpacks is you don't have to be right next to them because you can just web them. Like,
Cool.
once you're relatively close, he'll web them and grab them and say something every now and then. Oh, yeah, that's my,
So is
ID
that-
card for whatever.
That's holding down L2 and then going over and targeting it with R2? Or do you mean he just does that automatically?
I don't remember. It might be square button or it might be triangle. I don't
Okay.
remember what actually picks that up. I think it's triangle. I think triangle is the use stuff.
Cool.
Option. Same thing when you play as Mary Jane and Peter. I played as Peter on a mission, and you go in and you can examine things, or and I believe that's triangle button.
Cool.
There are suit powers and mods.
Yeah.
Mods you can attach to anything. Mods are just you'll unlock more slots for specific costumes as you go throughout the game. And they're mods are just more damage, more health, more just define the way that you want to play. But what I really dig is there were they won't let us talk about any of them, but there were a lot of fun costumes that I got right away that you would get.
A lot of fun costumes.
Yeah, there were several. I'll say that more than I had anticipated, and I got them quicker than I had anticipated. I don't know if that's going to work out the same way, but it was just materials that I had to find. And some of the materials were that they said you'll get more of these if you play more of the story, and I was like, oh, okay. So they were only a handful that they let us unlock.
That. I actually like that.
But these are materials that you go find again. So many backpack tokens, so many crime tokens, that you would unlock, and then you can unlock the costume. And every time you unlock a costume, you get a power that you unlock with that costume, but that you can then attach to any costume.
Ooh.
So I thought that was really neat. I can't remember a game that does that. Like, usually a skin is a skin, whereas there is a specific power associated with that spider suit that you're like, ooh, I like that one.
So I absorb that power.
So you can then, I'm going to go back to my original Spider-Man, the Spider-Man suit that you've seen in all the trailers, but I'm going to keep that ability from that other suit.
And they stack? There's no limit to
There's
how many
just one.
abilities?
No, there's just one
Okay.
that you can use.
Got it.
At a time. But I thought that was just such a cool thing to add as far as the desire. Just okay, I don't need that goofy Spider-Man outfit, but who knows what cool mod or power is attached to it.
Yeah.
So that was the difference between powers and mods. You get one power at any time, but you unlock them when you unlock these suits. And the suits are cool, but can't talk about them. And there are benchmark challenges, which you can imagine. I think Arkham did this too, which is knock so many dudes in the air, fall so many feet, run on a building for so many yards, and those are fun. They call them benchmarks, but those are fun that you just get them. All of a sudden, oh, cool, some more XP, great.
I want to ask, sorry, we moved down from controls, but I'm always curious about running up the building. It looks like you would lose momentum if you didn't press another, I'm assuming triangle, I guess, as you run up the building?
No.
So you can just R2 up a building the entire time?
Yeah, super fast. Way faster than I remember doing.
Does it look silly to you? Just to be running up the side of a building?
No, not really.
Okay.
You can web. I think it is triangle, pulls you up closer. It might be L2. I can't remember. But it was not a huge speed difference. It's just kind of a fun thing that you can do.
Sure.
Again, it just like navigating, which we will get to right now.
Cool.
You can... there are lots of various tools to use. You can spam one type of navigation thing and it's fine, but it is fun to kind of change them up. And specifically, as I did, I was rushing through this game as fast as I possibly could. But as I did in Spider-Man 2, again, I would remember buildings. I would know if I'm going to take a right here. Oh wait, no, this is the end of Central Park, so I know there's a row of buildings here, so I'm going to take a right here and go down there. And I imagine knowing as you get into oh, I'm getting into Times Square, so there's bigger, so I don't need to go over rooftops now. I can just kind of weave between the buildings.
Did you go to Times Square?
Yes.
Nice.
And I will get to that in a second.
Okay.
Because one of the things that I critiqued the game that was harsh because I was just playing the demo, and this was a very specific slice of the game at E3, that was a little disappointed is when I got down to the ground and I was looking around, there was not a lot of chatter. Not a lot of people were noticing me.
Yeah, I remember that.
I saved one crime and the cops just walked right by me. And I was like, bummer. And I saw some people that they were like, no, there's totally people that will talk to you on the street. And there are people that you can specifically act with that they'll have a little prompt come up and you're like, oh, and you can take a selfie with them or sign an autograph or something like that. I didn't do any of that specifically, but there was way more going on in the city in the early hours of this game that I played than in the specific demo. My favorite thing that I was yes, that I was waiting to have happen the entire time I was playing the Arkham franchise, and it never did. As beautiful as that series is, I never got a sense that yay, it's Gotham. I was like, it's a playground that looks like Gotham that this story takes place in. But you definitely get the vibe that stuff is going on in the city, plenty is going on that has nothing to do with me. And kudos to Insomniac for this moment that I thought was so choice. I landed and I'm like, I'm going to run around a little bit and just run around on the street. And one of the things, crimes that you can, not crime, but like one of the incidents that you can come upon and help people with is a car crash. And so there are 2 cars that have crashed in various ways. It wasn't the same setup every time I did it. And there's some kind of debris on them. So you'll have to like, oh, there's a thing, pull that off and then pull the car door out and then pull you out and then the car blows up and I saved you right in time. And then the person's like really grateful. I came across a car crash that was not a crime. It was just a car crash. And there was a fire truck next to it. And I was like, oh. And the fireman turned to me and he's like, we got this, Spider-Man, but thanks.
Huh.
I was like, cool.
Yeah.
Went away. I'm like, nice. And I think as I went away, an ambulance showed up at the same time.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's so cool that like this is just an event that happens. And they addressed that I was there and no, we don't need your help. And it's just like, that's that world building I'm talking about. It's so good. And it's so, I was surprised how much this game chatted at me, how much that happened. I did 2 side missions. I'm not going to talk about at all. But they had very specific characters associated with them, not like characters like, oh, that character from Spider-Man lore. It was just like a citizen that I needed to help. But it was not a simple thing. There were multiple stages to it. There was actually a contextual reason for why I was doing it and why this person was telling me to do it. Again, it wasn't as simple as that person being like, oh, the thing happening. And I went and did the thing. And then they were like, thanks. I went back to them. And then there was a whole nother phase to it. And then I did that. And then they were in trouble. I had to go back and save them. And then that opened up some other thing. And now I got to rush over to the city to do that thing. And so, I only did 2 of them, but I just thought they were very cool.
They weren't pointless.
And one of them was a funny character that was a little bit of, comedic relief. And one was a public servant, was someone who works for the public works in New York. And was just kind of like, hey, I know you don't necessarily do this, but I need help with this thing, and I think this pertains to you. And they even got a little cheeky with me, as for like they knew a little information about me that I did not think that they knew. And so it's just like a little bit more to those side quests than I was expecting. I don't know how many of those that there will be, but again, anything to get XP in this game. You just want to level up as fast as I possibly can and get all of these abilities.
Yeah.
And so it was just neat having all of these things that you could do. There was stuff in the demo that I didn't even do. There were like, that I played at E3, there were like Oscorp tech things that you could go in and get experience by like unlocking that. Didn't find any of those. As I mentioned, JJ's got a show that he chimes in, and those are very funny. You can listen to those later. There are radio towers. Towers, baby.
And you go up on them and they give you more objectives?
You go and you unlock them, and then that's what opens up you being able to see stuff in that district.
Sure.
There is context for them. There is a reason that you are setting them up.
Sounds very towery.
You are introduced to them. It's a real simple waveform minigame where one analog stick moving around moves the distance between the waves, and the other one moves the height, and you try to match the waveform that you're looking at with the waveform that you're changing.
Yeah, I've done that in games
By the
before,
time I did 10 of them, I was able to do them super quick. They're fun because it's fun to find them. You can see them from way off, and I finished all of them in like 40 minutes. I was just like, I'm just going to do this right now, get them all out of the way, because it was rough going to the map and being like, this area is blocked gray.
You did all of New York. You
were all of the island of Manhattan. I don't know if there's other locations you go to, but specifically that island. I'm that type of player whenever I play Assassin's Creed or Far Cry or anything, and there's just like, oh, there's these little markers. Like, okay, let's get this out of the way.
I get that, yeah.
And in less than an hour, done.
Cool.
And again, those things. There's a reason that they're there. There's a company, very specific company that built them, and and they come up again in the story. And so it wasn't just like this dumb thing that you got to do. It was neat to like. Sometimes there were policemen like next to it, so I would land and they'd be like, "What are you doing, man?" Like, so I'm just like, "Oh, sorry, do this tower really quick." And just gratifying to fill those out on the map and see the map like done when I had finished it. I'm a sucker for that in open worlds, but I understand when you say towers and open world together, people get frustrated. There was that awesome interaction where that fireman said he was good. You can take photos of landmarks in each district, and those are fun because they're landmarks. Like they are. I don't know if the Avengers Tower is one of them. It's in there, but a lot of the landmarks that I took photos of were actual New York landmarks. So
cool.
If you're not knowledgeable of that city and you're just constantly flying past these buildings, it's cool to see. And after he takes a picture, Peter will say something about that thing. Or like, oh, I remember when I took a picture of that for the Bugle or whatever. And I talked about side missions. I only have one more note, and it was something I was very surprised by. Spider-Man can swim.
Yeah, that is surprising.
You don't go underwater. There were, I mean, who knows? Maybe there are missions later in the game where he actually has to like swim underwater. But I was in Central Park and I just like slipped on a rock and I fell in the water. And I was just I was totally expecting like fade to black, fade out, and then he's back on dry land. And whoa, the suit, I can't get it wet. Or like, I believe the PS2 version did a thing where you'd like be underwater for 3 seconds and then he would just fly out of the water. And he just does a little dog paddle, just kind of do a little breaststroke.
I have to believe outside of the island there has to be
they might
boundary,
be some kind of restriction. Maybe even just swinging into that environment before you even hit the water, he'll just automatically.
Was Central Park cool?
Central Park was very cool. There was a landmark in Central Park. There was like a castle, and I'm like, oh, I didn't even know. I think I've driven by this, but like I didn't even know that was a place. And again, he commented on it, and like there was the whole side mission or activity going on there as well. And so there's just so much to do, and I like that a lot of people in open world games potentially look at a lot of activities like that. We had Corey Barlock sitting at this desk, and he was like, "That's why I hate open world games, because it's like feels like homework." But there's just something about Spider-Man, and there's something about this is very difficult for him to do the stuff that he does. He has a lot of challenges. It actually, again, I'm not going to talk about it at all, but like the opening cutscene of the game just perfectly encapsulates it sucks to be Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And it just has a great introduction to just like, Peter, Spider-Man, you know, and I just kept getting that vibe that like, yeah, there is a lot to do. There's a lot of chatter. There's a lot of people asking for help. There's a lot of activities. But to me, that just is this character, and I think it was represented so well, and I just loved his commentary. I thought the dialogue was constantly funny, and I just loved embodying this character, and I was real harsh when the story missions just stopped, and I'm like, oh, I'll do a side mission. They're like, oh, I'll do this other activity, and I'm like, no, story missions are, I'm probably done. It's like, oh, damn. I was really, I played 5 hours straight of this game.
Oh, so the demo you played had a hard cutoff on story.
Hard cutoff on story. The story missions just stopped.
Sure.
And I was like, oh. And so that's when I did the side missions and started running around and doing all the other little location-based stuff. And I want more. I mean, I wouldn't say like exceeded my expectations. I had pretty high expectations for Insomniac working on this. I think they've talked a good game about their goals and what they wanted this game to be. I think just the number one takeaway that I was so impressed by was just how, and this is rare, I think, for superhero games, again, comparing it directly to a series that I love dearly, which is the Arkham series. I feel like the story is the best thing about the Arkham series. The story and the puzzle solving, I think, were really just aces across all of those games. But I never got like when I played Origins, they're like, it's Christmas. And I'm like, yeah, you put up Christmas trees, but enough with your background, like theming of what's going on in this world. Like, just give me the characters, give me the writing, give me these specific locations, and just, you know, showing up at Aunt May where she works at her, I think it's called Feast. She works at her, she takes care of homeless people and underprivileged people. And just like being Peter and walking in and having guys being like listening to headphones. And they're like, oh, taking the headphones out. Hey, Peter, what's up? Good to see you, man. Like, hey, good to see you. And just like the world building and the detail, I was just obsessed with. And it was just, this was a sad game to put down and walk away knowing that I got to play those 5 hours again.
I have 2 questions.
Cool. I'm ready. It's question time.
Did you die?
Oh yeah, I definitely died. It's horrible. He goes limp and just like ragdolls out.
So are there difficulties, or is it just one difficulty?
There was one. I don't know if that was for the specific thing that we played, because we don't want to mess you around in the options too much. We want you to just jump into the game.
So it was
just
pretty hard. I don't know how you played it. It was pretty hard.
It was challenging, yeah. And
cool.
Specifically when I failed was I never failed like trying to get somewhere or some stupid time-based challenge. It was like, there's just too many targets. Sure. And specifically in one way that it is similar with Arkham is you just don't mess around with guns. Like somebody pulls a gun on you and shoots, that spider sense goes off to get out of there, because you cannot take a lot of hits. Even if you do take the hits, again, the heal does not heal you from much. And a lot of these, when I was into these challenge rooms, there were like at least 5 or 6 waves of dudes. And that last wave, you know, they're bringing in the little electric things that you can't attack them directly.
But that would be where most of the deaths come from, where the challenge rooms, not like story-based things?
No, yeah, I just got wiped out.
Cool.
Where the story-based stuff was fun, and I thought, I know people were nervous about the QuickTime events. I really just got a handful of them, and I felt that it was they did it in a good way to be rewarding, where the cutscenes were also extremely fluid, where I would just move into a zone and the camera would just pick up right at that instance and move right into the scene, and he would talk to cops or something and be like, okay, I'm gonna go over to this spot, and then transition to, pulling out, and then here comes the HUD, and you go right back into gameplay. So yeah, I did not when it actually got to a point where it's like, okay, I've done this boss fight, time to just kick the crap out of this guy. Yeah, you get the chance to like, okay, move fists or web or
Cool. Yeah.
So it was a good like button exclamation point on the end of a sequence, and not just like, oh, I wish I could have played that. It's like there's no way I could have played that.
Sure.
Huge, giant, crazy, epic, set piece moment that happened. It was not frustrating for me.
Really particular question about interiors. So Spidey, is he only outdoors, or do you get to do some cool interior missions as
Several.
Spider-Man?
Yeah.
Cool.
I think 3 big interiors that I went into that were story focused.
Yeah, that's important to me. That it's not just like outdoors, the city, and then sewers. You know what I mean? That we're actually indoors at some point.
They also did a really strange, one person asked me, which I thought was like, I love, just a great nitpicky note. Does he have reflections in the glass? He does not, unfortunately. But they do have a weird, like, certain apartments that you will see. So if you just kind of glance to the side and look at a building, it actually kind of looks like they're interiors. But if you get up close, it's like the same room that repeats.
Oh, yeah,
and it's like
that's
the
fair,
same
yeah.
thing where I was like, wait a minute. I'm like looking on one side and then looking at another window, and I'm like, that doesn't work. There's a wall here, but there's not a wall there.
Yeah.
It's if you scrutinize it, it's a little silly. But even there was one building where I did that and like kept looking at it, and the room itself had like a little like Fantastic Four figure on the shelf and a little like comic in the corner. It's like there were little fun Easter eggs. A lot of love in this game. Just
Cool.
a lot of great awareness of the character and exploring this world. I think is going to be a lot of fun, whether you do it through the story or character interactions or actively, going into these interiors and exteriors and taking in the city. Oh, one last thing I didn't write notes for that they did mention that I think people know, but initially I was like, bummer. And the more I think about it, it's like, I see what you did. Time does not change organically. Time changes when you move the story forward.
Cool.
And I thought about that and was like, bummer. It's like, it'd be weird. But like, it makes sense for several reasons. One, the story missions that I did take place at a very specific time. Peter's on the clock all the time. So there's a difference between like, when I got here and finally did this thing, then we moved time forward. Grand Theft Auto 5 solve for that is like, it doesn't matter what time it is, we're just going to fast forward time to that point. Whereas I think there's definitely like I said, an urgency in the story and a need to tell this story in a very specific amount of time. Like, we don't want to make it seem like, oh, yeah, you saw Aunt May 4 days later. It's like, no, it was that afternoon.
Yeah,
if you want to take the time to go do extra side stuff, it's fine, but it's going to be sunset the whole time. And so it was neat. It definitely, I thought fit the story, but at the same time, because they were picking these certain times of day to showcase New York, they could really kind of finesse like the sun placement and the clouds, and it looked really pretty.
What that gives me hope for, Jones, is I know you said it was super silly that Arkham Origins was during Christmas time, but like New York with snow is the coolest. So I have like hope that there is a winter time in New York at some point in the Spider-Man game.
Sure, or that because we are changing New York visually from mission to mission, that there is a permanence. I remember asking them with the crane, where I was like, hey, in that demo where that crane crashes through that building, is that building messed up now? And they're like, yes, it is.
Yeah,
and that crane is not there anymore. And so it's going to be neat to see as you go through, if there's potentially environmental destruction, that's permanent.
Did that demo happen in the first 5 hours?
Yeah, did not get to that point.
Whoa.
Yeah, lots going on. Again,
okay.
There's a lot in this game. Again, I get the feeling that Insomniac's like, let us not hold back.
Sure.
It's, there's no bad ideas. If anybody is suggesting anything, yes, let's do it. And specifically, it's so painful, but like, I'm telling you, 30 minutes into this game, you're gonna be like, oh,
great. That's what I want.
It's
That's what
really
I want.
great.
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing where they're like, why not? Why not just throw some fun stuff at you?
It's nuts, Jones, because the answer is sequels. Do you know what I mean? The answers from
and
publishers is always like, well, we need to save stuff for the sequel.
And I don't get the vibe that's like, oh, they're done. It's
Yeah.
like, well, please give me a Spider-Man 2. Please, Insomniac, just make these forever.
Yeah, cool.
Because they're so great. And so, yeah, it's not that, Peter's not an old man. This is not his retirement story. He's early 20s, but I think it just sets up the world believably and really gives you a sense of I just jumped into this character immediately. And I thought, the first time I saw some of the characters, I was like, whoa, these characters kind of look weird. Like, some weird,
the human
some
faces?
weird Uncanny Valley going on in this game. And
Sure.
just like that passed immediately. And I was really got into the great Mary Jane Peter scene at the end of one. Very gratifying moments at the end of one scene. And just really honest, kind of a modern, adult take on these characters. It's not just the simple like, well, screwed up that date. It's like, no, there's stuff going on. And you really got to wonder, like, okay, if this is their own Spider-Man, like, what are they gonna do? You know, like what, you know, like is this character gonna die? I don't know. You know,
Yeah.
like are they not gonna be around for the sequel? Like it's completely up to them. They're not beholden to anybody.
Yeah.
And you feel those stakes.
Cool.
And, I talk too much. It's so good.
No, it's a game you can talk about, you know?
And I appreciate some of us are on complete media blackout, Kyle, and so I appreciate. Hopefully, I didn't spoil too much. You feel I've ruined this game for you?
No, you did great, Jones.
All right.
It's the story beats that I get concerned about. Just seeing the specifics and things like that.
Yeah, because we're close to a month out, so you just gotta wait 4.5 weeks.
Yeah, but you being able to tell me this stuff and specifically, September 7th, man, it's coming up.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Stay tuned. We're gonna review the heck out of this game. I'm gonna play it a bunch. Thank you so much, Kyle, for sitting down with me, and thank you everybody for watching. Stay tuned.
How do I call you? I mean, do you have like a cell phone in your pockets or something?
Access provided by PlayStation.